So Liberty Casts have been up and running for about 10 years. I purchased them when they were smaller and we've been growing ever since. My role here is the CEO, so wearing about 10 different hats, but making sure things keep flowing in the way that they have. I've always loved metals and I've always loved engineering. My background's in casting, so this seemed like a very good fit. Socially, I come from a small town in northwest Indiana. Most of my friends and their families worked at the steel mills. It was tough work. They weren't appreciated. They weren't paid well. So I figured I've got one shot in life, and an opportunity arose where I could try and do things my way, which was more employee-oriented instead of the typical run-of-the-mill kind of run people down type shop. So both of those seem to blend together, and we've really created an environment here where we empower our employees in a skilled trade. So it's not just coming in doing the same thing over and over. And not only do they learn and grow, I learn and grow with them. When I was working in Grand Rapids at Body Code, I was their director of quality and engineering, the largest heat treater in the world. I heard through the grapevine, through some friends that said, hey, you need to check out this company in Detroit. It's right up your alley. So I took a look at it, sold my soul to the banks for a little bit, and it ended up working out where I could make the acquisition and start implementing the things that I like. It was a family-owned business before, so I thought that's a great transition for what I need to do and be able to not only implement my ideas, but have a good foundation to do that. So when I came in, it was sort of the Wild Wild West. We had small papers that had the orders and order quantities and customers that was built out of an Excel system, and it was more or less give the paperwork to the employees on the floor and hope that it gets finished in the right quantities. We've seen a night and day difference with using Steelhead, where not only do we get the quantities correct, we get the deliveries correct, get them on time. We can map out our campaigns better so we know what our actual lead times are. And with the employees, they have a better way of keeping track. That way, if two people are working on the same job, we know exactly how many parts of each got to get them out.
So yes, we used to use like a printed tickets, which, I mean, it worked the whole time, so I'm pretty sure it's working, still good, working fine. The only thing is, if you misprint or you lose the ticket, basically lost. With the computer, you can always go back, you can always look for the parts, search for the parts, see where the part was made last time, or where the order was finished or not. So give you much better tracking of all the parts we actually make.
In addition to being able to see our product flow from operation to operation, which we didn't have before, we can better pinpoint where our parts are in the process at different stages. And that's increasingly important. We need to cover lead times in manufacturing because lead times are everything.
For our casting department, to know what molds have been complete in their operation and what's ready to pour, they don't have to rely on visually taking looks every few minutes to see, okay, well, what can I pour next? What molds are ready? Molders move things into casting when they're ready to go. So then my melter can see I've got these parts to run. And they can easily determine, okay, well, what's the most efficient way to run these? Which order do I want to run them so they can maximize their pour on a daily basis?
Best way to describe it, it really lets you know what's going on the floor. It's very transparent. It helps me find things a lot easier through Steelhead.
It not only gives us visibility, but the feature where we can give customers access to a portal and see where their parts are in our process. That is probably the biggest differentiator that we have over the competition. No one has that right now. And people in manufacturing hesitate when they ask, well, when's this going to be done? They get an answer, you take it with a grain of salt. We can now give them that confidence to say, yeah, Liberty's telling us it'll be done Friday. I can see in process they are at finishing, the parts that I need are at finishing. We can rest assured this is great. And the other pro to that is, we don't have to spend 10, 20% of our day hunting down parts because we know exactly where they're at. We use Watchtower in order to track some of our parts in specific aspects of our process. We're able to now track our efficiency with our workers and better estimate costs based on the time that it's taken. We haven't had that before. a gut shot of how long do I think it's going to take. And now we have that clarity of, well, I may be right on some jobs and wrong on others, so we can better price. And there, in fact, there's some jobs that we're like, wow, we're really doing pretty well on this job. We don't need to worry about pricing even with inflation. And other jobs, and yes, we need to bump this up. It's not as easy as we thought. It didn't take as much time. Now we can better predict our workflow, what we have, what our demands are, so we can better project when do we need to ramp up and when do we need to reduce hours before we run into the instance of, wow, we plowed through all this overtime we didn't need. Or, hey, we probably should have pushed a little overtime in this instance when we got the high workflow. Order entry is great. To have all the details that we need in one database, especially being able to put prints on with the parts, not only helps me review the parts, but also helps my guys on the floor see, what are we running, what are the specifics here. If something seems like it's off, they can quickly go and look at the actual print and see, hey, that dimension isn't correct. Maybe something changed, or maybe there's a revision. As far as entering in order by order, it's very simple. I can see the customers that I'm needing to run through. It takes me a fraction of the time that it used to use QuickBooks. And yeah, it's a pain. There's a headache. There are things that didn't work right. Everything had to be linked perfectly. With Steelhead, I get that latitude where I can enter things in quickly. I have the visibility I need. And then I rest assured that everything's fine. The old method of having to print shippers out through QuickBooks, print invoices, sometimes they don't match. Sometimes they're not supposed to match. It created quite a few headaches where we were spending more time cleaning up our QuickBooks than actually using QuickBooks. With Steelhead and the step-by-step process, not only is it intuitive, it's sleek because it takes less time for us to do things. And everything's all coordinated together with our system in one location. It's very intuitive. Guys were able to see, okay, here's how we do this and that. I mean, I think it maybe took 2 weeks to really feel comfortable with each individual, or they could do it on their own without having to be checked.
I like the UI. It's very easy to know what you're doing on the computer. Everything is pretty, I would say, it's a very easy to understand UI.
Absolutely. Folks at Steelhead were here on site, answering every question we had, going through everything in detail, providing support systems like the online support where we can access things at any time and figure out what do we need. If we can't find anything on that site, emails are answered in a couple minutes sometimes. So, we've had great interactions with Steelhead to problem solve. The integration with QuickBooks has been great. Anytime we do have something that's not linking up and we can't figure it out, we get support right away from Steelhead to say, okay, hey, we just need to do this, and this. Folks over there, Mark and Mary Jane, are on the ball every minute we need them. And then as far as the streamline from going to print out shippers to invoices, it's almost as if we don't even need an office manager anymore because it's all self-contained in one easy system. Not only is the efficiency in terms of making the right parts when we need to make them, but also getting the customer support and the streamlining of the different facets of invoicing and shipping. If I had to put a ballpark on how much it's affected our revenue or our bottom line, I would say at least 10%. That's based on what we're running in our production. Then the intangibles you have to consider are things like, well, now we've got better customer support. Now when I go in front of a customer and they say, well, what sets your foundry apart from other places? First thing I say is, hey, we give you a portal. You can see where your parts are in the process. And I know they don't have that in the process. That sets us apart because everyone's going to say, well, quality and delivery, that's your best. Everyone says, here you have something unique that catches people, that brings them, and it keeps them in. So you use the quality management for all of our returns, which not only keeps better track of any returns that we have, but allows us to input them into our system wherever we need to. Sometimes when we get returns, it's something as simple as a quick rework versus something that has to be remade. So to have that flexibility with Steelhead where we can track that, we can input exactly what happened, what went wrong. It basically integrated a good portion of our ISO 9001 system into one location that we can access anytime. By we, I mean even employees on the floor. So when they're remaking it, we don't say, hey, remember to check your corrective actions on it, because no one's going to remember that. But when they see it on their Steelhead, on their portal, and they work parts, then it's, oh yeah, hey, we do need to look at this. We can correct that error from last time. 5 years ago. Quality hold is great too, because with all the chaos that runs in manufacturing, quality hold areas sometimes don't get used. That's the nature of the business here. So to have that hold where it can't be moved provides that extra layer of protection against escapes. Being in a jobbing shop, low line foundry, expedites are typical. And to have that extra note where the operator can quickly and easily say, you'll see that it says hot on it, then they know they got to move this quicker this week versus the other stuff. So it provides them with the guidance of, hey, well, how do I prioritize food versus just running and saying, hey, I'm going to run whatever I think I need to run. There's some guidance without me having to be out there telling, we need this. I think the best thing that Steelhead does as a company is they ask their customers, what do you want? As opposed to most companies trying to figure out what do we want to sell. Steelhead builds their platform off of customer feedback. And you don't see that out of really any company.